98.1 KZE MK with you. China Blue is my guest in the studio. She has a new exhibition opening tomorrow, Listening for the Unheard, at Jane Street Art Center, running through June 18th. China, thank you so much for joining me.
MK, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So we were chatting a little bit. You are a semi-recent Hudson Valley transplant.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I moved here just a couple of years ago, but I've always adored this area.
Yeah. We kind of share a fondness for the wildness and kind of the ancient feeling of this area.
Oh, yeah. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And so wild. I think wild is a really good description.
Yeah. And I mean, you're clearly very inspired by things that are wild and ancient, such as the planets and the solar system. And, you know, so this exhibition, Listening for the Unheard, is based on the sound of the rings of Saturn, which, like, tell me all about that, because I'm not going to do it justice.
Well, these are sounds that my husband, Dr. Seth Horowitz, and I discovered when we were doing some research for NASA. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think of how to make the story really short, because it could be very, very long.
And complicated, I'm sure.
And very technically very complicated. But ultimately, we made these discoveries of the sounds based on Cassini's data that this Cassini downloaded. So we found a way to make that into sound, and this became the basis for the exhibition that's up at Jane Street Art Center now, tomorrow, starting at 4:00 tomorrow.
Now, I don't want to belabor the point, because this might be like impossible to explain in layman's terms, but can you explain, like I'm 5, like how you translate the rings of Saturn into sound? When I first heard of this concept, I assumed it was like grooves on a record player. Is it anything like that, or no?
Well, that's an interesting analogy. Actually, when I was looking at the pictures of Saturn, if you look at Saturn from the North Pole, mm-hmm. you see the globe and you see the rings around it symmetrically. And when I saw that for the very first time, I thought, that's an album.
Yeah.
That's final. And that was my jumping off point when I said to my husband at the time, I said to him, I wonder if there are sounds in there. And it was from that point we started the research. And basically, there are numerous events that occur in the rings. They're not stable like the picture looks. There are events where basically the rings are made out of little and large, enormously large ice particles. Mm-hmm. The full range of sizes. And so they're rotating in a gravitational pull. And, of course, you're going to have events where some of them are going to be slamming into each other. But also in the rings are moons.
Yeah.
Saturn has over 100 moons. So you have the moons rotating and the ice particles rotating. So there are all these events that can occur, and that is what produces sound, are these events that are occurring. So what we did was we took the data that Cassini downloaded and looked for those sound events.
That is so wild. That is, I love when art and science work together like that.
It was quite exciting, and we were sort of the art science couple.
Yeah. Has that sort of been a theme throughout your career, like using science as art and art as science?
Most recently, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fascinating arena to be dancing in, and the exciting thing is that I'm always learning more. Mm-hmm. And then the question is always, well, how is this art?
Yeah, well, that is always the question. But then, you can also say that anything is art if you frame it right.
Exactly. That's really true.
Yeah.
But what I decided to do for this exhibition was just work on the sounds and make paintings. You'll see paintings, sculptures, 3D prints of moons of Saturn. You'll see installations, and a sound installation you'll be hearing some of the sounds in an installation format. And also a walk that's called Saturn Walk, which you will walk in a labyrinth based on Saturn's North Pole. And you can walk to the sounds, one of the sound pieces that I was going to say choreographed. That's wrong. Composed.
Uh-huh.
I composed it with Lance Massey, who is the guy who created the T-Mobile ringtone.
I saw that on the website. That's so interesting. What a claim to fame.
Yeah, it is. It's really great.
Yeah. So this, again, is an exhibition opening tomorrow at Jane Street Art Center, which we love. It's a beautiful place in Saugerties. Listening for the Unheard is the exhibition. And as you can hear, it's super multimedia, all kinds of different things. And what kind of came first? The inspiration for, were you inspired by Saturn and just kind of wanted to make all of these things and then brought it together? Or did you decide you wanted to have this big multimedia installation?
Oh, the research for the sound was the first.
Yeah.
It and then it inspired multiple pieces after that.
Yeah. And you've made music out of it. Is the music in the the installation, is it going to be just those raw sounds, or is it going to be the music that you created out of those sounds, or a little of both?
It's in some cases they are composed, and in other cases they're just the sounds.
Yeah. China, are you a astrology person? Where do you land on astrology versus astronomy?
I land on the astronomy part.
Mm-hmm. Not super interested in the astrology side of things.
Not too much degree, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just curious, because Saturn. I mean, was it Saturn just because Saturn had the rings, or what drew you to Saturn?
Well, many years ago, when Cassini was researching Saturn. That's when the images started showing up on the news cycle. Mm-hmm. And that's what excited me were the images, actually, because I'm a visual artist to begin with.
Yeah.
And so when I saw these images, I was looking at them going, oh my gosh, I wonder if there's sound there.
Yeah.
Putting on the sound artist hat.
Right. China Blue is my guest. The exhibition Listening for the Unheard opens tomorrow with a reception from 4 to 7 at Jane Street Art Center. And China, will you be there answering questions?
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
I'll be totally available for any questions, and I'm sure you'll have a myriad of them.
Yeah. Do you enjoy talking to viewers about your art?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
What are some of the most common questions that you get?
How did you discover this?
Mm-hmm.
That's, the big question. And, of course, as you heard, it's the answer can be as complicated as you want it to be.
Yeah.
I'll try and make it simple, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of math involved in the answer, I'm sure.
And tangents and terminology like that.
Yeah. What's going on at the opening? Is there going to be music, or just you're letting the Saturn music speak for itself?
Oh my gosh, there's a number of pieces that are sound installations. Mm-hmm. There's two sound sculptures. There's one called Moon Whispers, where you'll see 4 or 5 3D prints illuminated of 5 of Saturn's moons, with a sound piece that goes with that. There's another piece that's called Two Moons, which is a balancing piece with 2 of Saturn's moons, with also its own sound piece. So there are many places throughout the exhibition where you will be able to hear some really fascinating acoustic events.
Yeah. It sounds like the kind of thing where you can walk through and just really kind of get your mind blown about the scale of the universe.
Absolutely. And at the end, there's the labyrinth where you can just meditate and just focus your mind just on the sound. Yeah.
Is that, what kind of feelings does it evoke for you when you were working on it, and now when you stand in the finished exhibition? What kind of comes up for you?
It's curious for me because I'm still excited about it.
Yeah.
I've been working with this material for a long time now, and usually after a while you get bored, but I'm still quite excited about it.
Yeah, is that true? When you're creating art or creating a new exhibition, there comes a point where you're sick of it?
There can be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you work on it long enough. And my pieces are very complicated to make and to build. They include wiring systems and electronic systems and sound systems and building. And so there are all these different hats that I have to juggle in order to make it real. So it can be exhausting. The piece that's called Moon Whispers took close to a year to complete.
Wow.
Just because it was so difficult.
So complicated. How long did the entire exhibition take to put together?
It's been about 2 years.
Wow. Yeah, so this is the culmination of 2 years of work. That's got to be quite a feeling that it's finally going out to the public.
I'm so happy that it's going to be exhibited tomorrow.
Were there some pieces in this exhibition that you had to, because I'm hearing, you built sculpture and paintings and soundscapes and all of these things. Was there anything that your ambition kind of got out ahead of like your experience where you had to kind of learn a new medium?
That's always the case for me.
Yeah.
It's I start out with, it'd be great if, and then I try to rein myself in, thinking, I've done this a million times before, and I get myself stuck into having to learn how to do something or other, and I try to be prudent and careful, and I can never be enough so.
Well, you can't stop yourself from pursuing what feels right. I mean, I guess you could, go with the easy path as opposed to what you truly want, but it doesn't seem like that's what you're trying to do.
It would be so nice to have an easy path, but it never becomes available for me.
Mm-hmm. Good for you.
I just do what I do and I stumble through it and I end up with something. And fortunately, I'm happy with what I end up with. So there you go.
Yeah. China Blue is my guest. The exhibition is Listening for the Unheard. And I wanted to talk a little bit too. There's on the description of the exhibition on Jane Street Art Center's website. The unheard is a category of sound not accessible to human ears. It can also be applied to those acoustics that we are deaf to, resulting from the internalization of racism or sexism. Tell me a little bit about that, because I really like that turn of phrase, and how do you connect that to this work?
Well, the unheard is in relationships. We're not trained to listen well. Mm-hmm. We often anticipate what the answer will be before we hear it, or oftentimes we're just chattering along and not really thinking about what's being relayed or what's being heard. So on the topic of listening, it's really important in our society now, I believe, for people to learn how to listen carefully. And that's one of my focuses is on deep listening, which is paying attention to what people have to say and responding appropriately. If we were to listen carefully to each other, it would improve our relationships dramatically. Mm-hmm. But not only that, it improves our community. And with this, in the case of our communities where there's such an enormous separation that it's getting wider and wider, it's becoming more and more evident to me that listening is critical to bridging these enormous gaps, because we have to hear from what other people are feeling they're lacking.
Yeah.
Or if they're being ignored, or if their needs are not being fulfilled.
Yeah, that's extremely well said. I mean, it's so easy to let emotions stop you from hearing what's really being said. You want to listen to somebody who disagrees with you, and you want to listen to a conflicting viewpoint, but it can be hard to listen to that objectively without kind of having like a knee-jerk reaction against it.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And pausing is really a wonderful tool. Just to pause and pay attention, to absorb it and take it in, and then decide what to say.
Yeah.
As a response.
Yeah. So practicing deep listening is a part of this exhibition for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Listening for the Unheard is the new exhibition at Jane Street Art Center. The opening is tomorrow from 4 to 7. I highly recommend everybody stop by and view it and experience it, and try to go tomorrow from 4 to 7 when China Blue will be there. She's very easy to talk to, and she'll answer your questions.
Yes, I look forward to seeing you there. It'll be exciting.
And the exhibition is open through June 18th. That's at Jane Street Art Center, janestreetartcenter.com for details. China, this has been so lovely. Thank you so much for joining me.
MK, this was really great. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And I even managed to find a song that I think works pretty good here. Do you like Stevie Wonder?
Of course.